Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, featuring industry thought leaders sharing problem-solving insights to help grow your business and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stewart Andrew Alexander.
Hi, and welcome to another Let's Talk Divorce conversation. And on this segment of the show, ladies and gentlemen, I have family law attorney Colleen McCoy, managing partner of the McCoy Family Law LLC from Denver, Colorado. Now then, Colleen, who has a wealth of experience in the area of family law, will be talking to you today about relocation during the divorce process. So, if you are one of the many divorcing couples in the Denver, Colorado area, you might want to down tools, log out of Facebook. Come on, give yourself a break. Log out of Twitter, Instagram, or anything else you may be doing which may cause a distraction. And even grab yourself a notepad and pen, get ready to take some notes and listen in to what Colleen has to share with us today. So, with that said, let's not keep the lovely Colleen waiting any longer. Welcome to the show, Colleen.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Let's just jump straight in. As we say in the UK, let's jump feet first in. The water is fine. Come on in, Colleen. Briefly, in your own words, can you describe what types of people you serve and the various types of situations they find themselves in when they come to you for your help?
Well, I I serve all kinds of people. I get people who work in the oil fields. I get truck drivers. I get people who are financial analysts. I sometimes get low-income people who are undocumented, teachers, real estate agents. I get everybody, really. It seems like when you get one, of course, then you get like all their friends. So at one point, all my clients worked for FedEx. They were all truck drivers for FedEx, which surprisingly, FedEx truck drivers make quite a lot of money, well above six figures. So most people don't realize that, but it's true. So that being said, I do have a lot of people out there. I was an attorney for a massage therapist who paid me in some massage work. So I get all the people.
So what kind of situations do these array of people find themselves in when they come to you for your help then, Colleen?
It just depends. I hate to say that you start to see fact scenarios, but you do. It's always custody or child support, post-decree issues often, meaning a modification of child support or contempt a lot of times, or modification of parenting time, or, motion to restrict parenting time. I do get a lot of just divorces right off the bat as well. So if it's a family law issue, I tackle it.
Excellent. Now, keeping in mind that anything you share with us today, Colleen, is not legal advice or legal assistance. It's purely information. Now, with that said, in all of the time that you've been out there working as a family law attorney and helping the people who you can help the most, I'm sure you come across many misconceptions. The preconceived notions of people who have done some research online and found some information on Google and believe it to be true, or their friends and colleagues have told them something related to their divorce case and they believe that to be true, and then they come to you with these preconceived notions and you have to spend time debunking those misconceptions before you can get down to the truth. However, we only have a certain amount of time today, so could you just share what's the most common misconception you come across while you're out there working with these unfortunate divorcing couples?
Well, and there's plenty. I could, in any of the topics that we just mentioned, child support, et cetera, there's, a multitude of misconceptions on the behalf of people. For one thing, just on child support alone, I will talk about relocation, but people think if you have joint custody, that means that you don't pay child support, and you do. But concerning relocation, which I think is our topic, the most common one is that a parent is able to just leave the state during the divorce before the divorce is finalized because there's no order entered. So, oh, well, the child's with me, I can just leave and do whatever I want. And that is not the case. You have to ask for, once there's a case in action, you have to ask for permission from the court. Otherwise, I had a client who was drugged back up here from New Mexico with an abduction prevention order. It's not exactly kidnapping, but while the case is pending, the court has jurisdiction over that child, and you can't do anything with them unless either your ex gives you written permission or the court says it's okay. So it can cause some problems.
Right.
Even on vacation. You can't even just leave to go on vacation. You cannot cross the state line, or you stand the chance of being drugged back and arrested.
Well, that's some great insights and going to be very useful for our listeners out there. So thanks for sharing that with us, Colleen. Now, moving on, and as a reminder of today's topic, it is relocation during the divorce process. Now, with that in mind, Colleen, and for those divorcing couples wanting to know more, what's the most common but unknown pitfall that they need to be aware of, no matter what kind of situation they find themselves in?
Sure. Well, so a lot of times a parent will ask to relocate with the child to another state, and they think that they've won. Oh, well, my ex will never see the child again, ha, ha, ha. But that's really not the case. When you get freedom to relocate with the child from the court, you may have primary parenting time during the school year, but the court most often will issue some kind of order to where you're not going to see that child in the summer, because then the other parent will have a good 3-month block of being with the child. Plus, and I just had a case where the mother took off to Ohio, and the court didn't force her to have the child come back here full time, but the father got, if he can afford it, he gets to see the child over a weekend every month. Plus he gets all of winter break, all of spring break, and all of summer. And obviously her leaving, she had hoped to put a stop to dad's involvement, and that's not what the court wanted or had in mind. So now, instead of being reasonable and staying here and having some sort of shared parenting time, make it easier on dad, now she's not going to see her child for good chunks of time. So it can kind of backfire on you. If you're meaning just to keep the child all to yourself, it's probably not going to work out like that.
Another great insight. Thanks for sharing that with us, Colleen. Now, I've just got an off-the-cuff question that I just thought about, Colleen. Of all the questions that the people who you work with, those divorcing couples, of all the questions that they ask you, and I'm sure they're pretty much not the same, but there are some commonalities across the board. There's a pattern there in most of the questions that you receive. What's the question that you would love them to ask you, but they never do? What would be that one question?
Oh my gosh. Well, I guess, and maybe this is more of a collaborative law thing, and it's not so much with relocation, but I think people are always so bitter that they're just looking at how to get at their ex and keep them away from the child, or get more child support, or stop paying child support. It seems like they really need to ask more questions about how to better benefit the child, and not just, they need to get outside of themselves and think about the bigger picture. Like, for example, if you are successful in keeping your child from their mother or father, how is that child going to feel when they're 18?
Right.
They're going to probably resent you, and they don't really consider that, and they should. Maybe they should ask for, more insight into how to resolve something like that. That's kind of a scenario.
You're right. Colleen, I'm so happy that you brought up that point. Yes, it's a little bit off topic because we're talking about relocation in a divorce. However, it all links to that, because the main reason why I started this series of Let's Talk Divorce conversations with divorce professionals like yourself is, one is for people like yourself to give you a voice, give you a platform to get the word out there, to help the people who you help, these unfortunate divorcing couples. But mainly, the reason why I started this is because I myself was a child of divorce. My parents you too as well, right? So it's funny how we all end up in this pool of, working within the divorce arena.
Right.
My parents had a very volatile, very violent divorce. And I was 11, 12 years old, totally powerless, but my younger brother and I, we were caught up in the middle of that. And unfortunately, our parents played the ping pong game. Your father's this and your father's that and your mother's this, your mother's that. And we both grew up blaming ourselves. And, even deep into my adulthood, I'm 55 now, but even into my 30s, I was still dealing with those issues which happened in my childhood. So my motivation, my mission for this particular series is to bring people on the show like yourself so that you can speak to those divorcing couples in the hope that if only one couple listens and says, something, maybe we should look at this from a different perspective. Maybe we should be more amicable for the sake of our children. If that only happens and that one child benefits, then for me, that's mission complete, mission accomplished. So I'm so glad you brought that up, because the hidden victims, the powerless victims in all of these unfortunate situations, nobody gets married to get divorced, but when it happens, it happens. And for whatever reasons, and no matter how bitter somebody may be feeling, and maybe rightly so, maybe they've been cheated on, or for whatever the case may be, the children should always come first. Now,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm so glad you brought that up. If you want to expand on that, you can go ahead. We can go a little bit off topic with the relocation thing, because the children are just so important. What would you say to those unfortunate divorcing couples that may be at loggerheads right now and they're just at each other's throats and unfortunately forgetting the children? What would you just say to them right now?
Well, so much of it is a power play. And I get it. I do. I get it. I see it all the time. You want to get back, and using the kid is the easiest way to do it.
Right.
But and I read an article, I think it was in Psychology Today, and it was saying something about, because your child, sees himself as half of mom and half of dad. So when you're bashing mom or dad, and you're bashing part of the child doesn't understand, even when they're 13, then they think that they have a bad part of them, that there's something wrong with them because they have this legacy of, whatever it was that mom found unacceptable, or whatever it was that dad found unacceptable. And they internalize that and think that some part of them is malfunctioning or bad. So, and that, as you said, can go into adulthood, and that can, poison some of their own relationships.
Absolutely. Now, as strange as this may sound, today's topic is relocation during the divorce process. However, Colleen and we got off on a little bit of a tangent, but it's all relevant to the topic anyway. So, Colleen, very briefly, how many years have you been practicing family law?
Well, I started practicing law in 2006. I've been practicing family law exclusively since 2009.
So it's safe to say, 8 years, 9 years, approximately?
Yeah, about 9.
Yeah. So would it be fair to say that you've helped hundreds of people in that 9-year span?
I like to think I've helped them.
Right. Okay.
So, yes.
Right. So, that's a lot of people, a lot of emotions, a lot of different scenarios. When you wake up on a day-to-day basis, even today, Colleen, how do you feel? Is this something that you're still motivated to do?
Yes, it is. And, I would have to say that I always give 100%, and I give 100% myself, which my husband gets really sick of sometimes. But nevertheless, I get really involved in my cases. And it's, you have the bad cases where you're just like, did I help? I don't even know. I don't know if I did, or it didn't go the way you wanted. And so you get really down about it. But then you have the cases, just like I was mentioning, the case where the lady, he didn't even know, this is crazy. He didn't even know that they were going to get divorced. And the lady said, I'm going to go visit my parents or something. And I forget what her excuse was. And he was like, okay. And so he was trying to work to get his business set up. And she ran off to Ohio to stay there and was like, I'm not coming back, so I want a divorce. And, he couldn't do anything about it. He couldn't get his kid back. He went almost an entire year. He went 318 days without seeing his child. And his child is calling him and crying, Daddy, where are you? Why can't I see you? And there was a temporary orders hearing, but she did something crazy and said she filed a motion to restrict his parenting time and said that he was like abusing the child. Well, when the child last saw him, he abused him and, saw this and that, and he's doing drugs. And the court just bought it, which is sad. Neither one of them had an attorney, maybe is why. But it made it so worth it when we got a child and family investigator involved, which hadn't happened before. And even though she did her investigation long distance for the lady who was in Ohio, she was like, this child needs to see his father. And now his son is with him all summer long. So, and he was the one I was talking about when I said he can see the child every weekend if he wants during the school year, if he can, fly up there and see him, and he can have him every single school break. So, he was crying when we got that taken care of, and it was just like, okay, this is what keeps me going, is cases like this and the child wins, child gets to have both parents now, and, child wins, dad wins. I mean, mom, she should have kind of expected that her child was one day going to be able to see his father. But, so things like that do keep me going. It can be hard when you have things that don't go as they should.
Yeah, but you're waking up every morning with a purpose, and you're making an impact on people's lives. I think that's the most important thing. I mean, why else would we be here if we're not making a positive impact on other people's lives? So thanks for sharing that with us, Colleen. So in terms of your formal background then, Colleen, could you just spend a few moments just sharing a little bit about your education and your experience as it relates to the topic of family law?
Sure. Well, like you, I'm a product of divorce. I think that lends something to my background with family law because, my parents got divorced when I was 6, not to be a topper, but I was in kindergarten and my parents got divorced.
Right.
So I've never really known a functional relationship until, I got married. So definitely I'd like to, on a personal level, maybe help people to find a common ground, a functionality to be able to have functioning relationships with their exes and their children. I love it when I run into clients and they tell me that things are now more amicable. But regarding my background, I went to the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque, where I was going to be a psychology professor, actually. And I did the whole GRE. I have a published paper in a psychology journal. I was going to do psychology, and it just didn't feel right. Even though, things were set in motion, my professor was going to help me get in, and I was just like, I don't know. So I took some time off, and I came up to Denver, and I decided to go to law school. I decided, well, my dad's a corporate attorney, and he was like, well, and I was like, okay, all right. So I took the LSAT, got into law school, went to University of Denver, Sturm College of Law. I graduated in 2003. But after that, I took some time off. My husband, my now husband, then boyfriend, and I were like, if not now, when? So we decided we would be resort employees, and we went up to the mountains and worked. I was a snowboard instructor for Breckenridge Ski and Ride School for 5 years. So didn't really help my resume at that point, but I am glad I took that break because it makes me more, I think, focused on what I want to do instead of the people who, just kind of jumped into it and just started working immediately just to work instead of thinking about what they wanted to do. So
Exactly. So we're coming towards the end of the show, Colleen. I'd just like you to picture the kinds of divorcing couples who come to you for your help, and they're wanting to dig a little bit deeper into the topic of relocation during their divorce process. So with that picture in mind, Colleen, what final thoughts would you like to leave those divorcing couples with before we move on to our last question for today?
Sure. Well, I would say you need to be doing it for the right reason. There's a case, Spalmer is what it is, and that rules the court decisions. And if you have a good reason, if it's good faith, like it's going to benefit the child, it all has to be in the best interest of the child. Like you're getting a new job, you can't find employment here, and you can work out. You present the court with an appropriate parenting plan for if you move. The court is very inclined to allow you to do it. It used to be based on whether or not you were the primary parent. And while, that still plays a part, that's not necessarily the end-all, be-all of the court's decision on whether or not to allow you to relocate. But you definitely have to make sure that it's in the child's best interest and that your request to move with the child out of state is in good faith, because, otherwise the court may smell a rat and you could even be sanctioned, depending, and have to pay some attorney's fees for a frivolous or a vexatious request. So, and you'll have to back it up with documentation too. So if you say, I've done all the job searches here and I just can't find anything in my field, the court may not buy that unless you can show that you actually have, and you have a job waiting for you someplace else that is a good job.
So after 9 years as a family law attorney, practicing family law, and the hundreds of people who you've helped, I'm sure that you have so much more to share. We've only scratched the surface today in our short conversation. So if that's the case, then Colleen, and there is somebody out there who's listening right now and they want to know more about relocation during the divorce process or any of the other areas of family law that you can help them with, how can they find you? How can they get in touch with you?
Well, I have a Facebook page for my office, and I'm really good about answering messages. They can also call me. My office number is 720-460-9193. I'm located in downtown Denver at 1665 Grant Street, and I'm happy to set up an appointment time to either do a free 20-minute phone consultation or set up a time for them to come to my office and speak with me, and we can discuss their case then.
Okay, excellent. That's all we have time for today, Colleen. For the listeners out there, that was family law attorney Colleen McCoy. Thank you so much for sharing so generously today with us, Colleen. You have certainly, without a doubt, demonstrated that you are a true educator, advocate, and trustworthy advisor for your client's success. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This was fun.
You are so welcome. It's been fun on my side too. I think you and I are going to cross paths again, maybe in another show. I've got a feeling you've got so much more to offer. So, watch this space, ladies and gentlemen. And while I'm on the topic of speaking with you, the listener, I'd also like to say a big thank you to you. Thank you for joining us on this very insightful and informative discussion with one of the leading family law attorneys in Denver, Colorado today. Again, her name was Colleen McCoy. Don't forget her name. Visit her website, send her an email, give her a call. You're going to be in good hands. I'm absolutely sure of that. So that's it. Again, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Stewart Andrew Alexander, and we'll be back shortly with some more leading family law professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Divorce Conversations. So, until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present, and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.